Today's video is something I've been meaning to do for a long time. Usually I do, head-to-head shootouts where I'm going to use the wiretap where I record a performance, which I use basically as a DI where I record what comes out of the guitar and then I just press play. I record both pedals, I shoot them out in a video, and I let you, the viewer, decide which one's best. But I've been going through a bit of a change in my mentality towards gear in the last few months, where I'm putting a lot of the stuff I have for sale just because I want to simplify everything. I have to admit I'm a bit exhausted with trying to keep up with the latest trend in music, like what's the new Klon, what's the new Tube Screamer. And I get why the industry does it, because there's always someone looking for something new, a new take on something. The companies are trying to facilitate music making for us. But at a certain point, I think I got lost personally in the whole, like, what is best? And you always want to have the best gear. But then you have the best gear, but then some company comes out with a new model that's supposed to be even better than what you have. So we end up, as musicians, kind of chasing our own tail here, because we're always in this quest for tone without really analyzing if we've landed where we're supposed to. With that being said, what I want to do is something I've been meaning to do for a long time, which is to take the pedals that I already have that respond to this. So basically, this is the TC Electronic Cinders. This is supposed to be their take on a Boss blues driver. From what I understand, there are some slight mods to it. I do know that the tone doesn't feel as bright and brash on this guy as the Boss. This is also true bypass. The Boss has a buffered bypass. And overall, this pedal doesn't have as much volume on tap, but it's still a very good sounding pedal. And I think it goes for like 40 bucks, something like that. Very sturdy. This is not like a cheap plastic thing. Great knobs on it. Everything's good on this. And soft switch. So for the price point, this is very good. Which brings me to the original Boss blues driver. So this guy here, still sturdy, not as heavy as this guy, but this is the original. It's not one from the 90s, it's a modern production one. I believe this one here is made in Malaysia. Yes, it is. I'm old, I gotta back it up, but yeah, it is made in Malaysia. Very good, but the tone knob is a bit bright, so the top end is a bit brash. I'll always keep it at around like 9, 10 o'clock on this guy. And then I debated between those two. I was like, okay, which one's better? Do I like this one or that one? And then some days I kind of fool myself into believing that this is better. Other days where I want to simplify shit, I seem to be thinking that the Cinders would be the best option. So, not being able to be satisfied with anything, I got this on a trade, which is the Waza version. And what I want to do in this video is compare all three. So basically we have the more boutique-y Waza, which has a mod on there that gives it, from what I can hear, just a bit more low end. The high end seems to be about the same as the regular blues driver, and the blues driver is going to be the control. This is like the mass-produced, more readily available, and also original design. And then we have the Cinders, which is a budget option. A lot of people kind of overlook this pedal. I don't know if it's the name, I don't know if it's the color, the looks, or just the marketing around it that didn't hit as much as it should have. Personally, right now, like if I wasn't going to compare, all three pedals are great. But if we're going to compare them, we have to know, where would you put your money? Would you put it on the Cinders? Would you just get the regular blues driver? Or would you pony up and pay a little more so you could get the Waza version? And at the end of the day, sound-wise, are we paying for better sound? Are we paying for better components? Or are we just paying for the security of knowing that we have something that if ever we want to sell it, it's going to sell for more money? So what I'm going to do again is use the wiretap. I'm going to use different guitars, and I'm going to try to keep the clips as short as possible. So if you really want to compare all three, just use the chapters below. You can hop from one example to the other. It's going to be the same performance through the same amplifier, same setting. Everything's the same. The only thing that's going to be different are going to be the part tolerances for the pots and tones. That I have no control over. So you have to tell yourself, if you're hearing some sonic differences, it may be the part tolerance for each of these, because even if I take these two and I set them exactly the same, there might be some wiggle room here in terms of tones. And I'm also going to normalize the audio, which means that I'm going to make sure that they are at the same loudness for all three examples. This way there isn't one that's quieter, giving you the impression that it doesn't sound as good. So let's go get started, and at the end I'm going to give you my impression. If you enjoyed this video so far, please give it a thumbs up. And if you enjoy this kind of content, consider subscribing. I come out with new videos every week. Some of them are sponsored videos, but there's a lot of non-sponsored stuff that's just very geeky and me going down the rabbit hole. So if that's the kind of thing you like, just consider subscribing. It really does help when you do that. If you made it this far in the video, it's that you want to hear what I think of all three pedals. I think that we should start with the least expensive option here and really look at it for what it is. So the TC Electronic Cinders, one, it's top mounted, which I really like about it. Form factor, it's not too large. It's very sturdy. In terms of control, I mean, it's the same as the other pedal, but very satisfying soft switch. I can't really find any flaws to this guy. Maybe the fact that it doesn't have as much volume on tap as the other two, but if you're looking for that sound, you want just a bit less bright and brash sounding compared to the Blues Driver, this is a great option. Where it starts to fall apart a bit is when you are going for more of the high gain stuff. It doesn't quite fuzz out exactly like the Blues Driver, so that's where I start to hear a difference. But otherwise, if you are on a budget, you want that sound, and you don't really care to pay twice as much for a Blues Driver, then I think this is great. And I wish Boss pedals would have something like this, because it just saves up a lot of space on a pedal board. In terms of practicality, I think this is my favorite in terms of practical, form factor. If you use a lot of TC Electronic pedals, you can stack them right up. Top mounted, the knobs feel great, they're not cheap, great switch on there. So yeah, for the price point, they're great. These, I believe, are made in China. If that matters to you, doesn't matter to me, don't give a shit. It could be made on the moon, I don't care, as long as it's great. Now, if we move on to the Blues Driver, if you don't care about the provenance of where it's built, you might as well go just for the original. If that's what you want that sound, just do keep in mind that these have a tendency to have quite a bright sound to them depending on the amp you're using. It's reliable. I mean, they've been making these forever. So for the price point, especially if you go used, you can pick these up for like 60 bucks used. So great pedal, not too heavy, far less heavy than the Cinders, and great feeling knobs. We're all used to this foot switch, so we know exactly what it does. I really can't find a flaw to the regular Blues Driver. It's a great choice. I think if you just want to have good, reliable, readily available pedal, this is it. The Blues Driver over here, for whatever reason, doesn't quite feel the same. It feels a bit heavier, and I think it's not made of, it's not made of, or at least I don't think it is. Doesn't seem to be made of the same alloy. It feels a little sturdier, feels a little more serious, a little more weighty, if you will. Great feeling knobs, great switch just like the other, but this one here obviously has the advantage that if you need that modified sound, it's already included. So if you want to get this guy here made in Taiwan modified, you're probably not going to be able to get it modified, because from what I understand, the way that they make the PC board on here, you can't really modify them. These ones here, or the older BD2, they are through hole, which means that if you send it to someone that does modifications, they can modify it for you. But over here with this model, obviously Boss has modified it already. Does this custom setting sound good? Yeah, especially with like single coils, it really beefs up. It retains a lot of the low end, but I found myself not using it that much. The standard Boss Blues Driver sound is quite fine for me. At the end of the day, which one would I keep? And I'm gonna have to make a decision, because I'm trying to liquidate a lot of the stuff I have here because I need the room. As you can tell behind me, I'm quite cramped. Like, the walls are pretty close to me. This is a small square room, which is really not that great for shooting gear videos, especially when you have like a shit ton of stuff. Which one would I keep? Now, if I'm not bullshitting myself, I can say I'm going to keep the Waza version, because it's the more expensive one. I can think about longevity. I can think of resale value. But if I think of, well, where should I put my money and what would make more sense to me, I think I could be happy with the Cinders. I mean, it sounds pretty much dead on with the Blues Driver and the Blues Driver Waza. Letting go of this philosophy that I have to have the best, is kind of stupid, but there's a part of me that wants to do that. And I think being honest with yourself is important. So if you keep the Cinders and you sell the other two, you have more money in your pockets. If you keep the Blues Driver and you try the Blues Driver Waza and you sell the other two, you're not going to make as much money on the resale, because resale value on those is quite depreciated just because they are not the boutique version or they're not the sought after version. That's where I can no longer help you make that decision. You have to make that decision for yourself. If you had a choice between all three, you could afford to pony up and get the Waza version, or maybe you spotted a modified version like a Analog Man modded Blues Driver or 𝐒𝐓𝐌𝐿 modded Blues Driver. It's a matter of, do you intend to keep that? You have to try it first, obviously, but to try it doesn't mean that you're going to like it. So even if you buy one that's more expensive and you don't bond with it, at some point you're going to sell it. The resale value on the Waza is going to be much better than that of the Cinders or the regular Blues Driver. But if your point is to own that pedal and that's what you're going for, that's where you need to make that decision. If you don't intend to sell it and you want to play gigs, do you want to bring the Waza and have someone steal it or someone spill beer? Or would you prefer going with this one that's more readily available and is quite sturdy, can take a kicking and keep on licking, or take a licking, keep on kicking? I think that makes more sense, yeah. So anyways, that is my 2 cents. Right now, I'm thinking that I'm either going to go with the two extremes. Either I'm going with the Waza version, or I'm going to go with the Cinders, because I don't have any particular attachment to just the regular Blues Driver. I love what the Cinders is doing, and I also love the modification on the Waza. So I end up doing this video where, for myself, in the next few days, I'm going to have to make a decision. I'm going to have to test it out and really call myself out on the bullshit. Do I really need the Waza version? And if I don't, can I be happy with one of the other two? I'll let you know in the community post at some point which one I decided to keep and which ones I'm selling. So that way, if you're kind of messed up in this whole selling and buying thing yourself, perhaps this can give you an impression that other musicians are struggling with the bullshit, that other musicians are thinking about, like, where should I put my money? We are going through some pretty fucking hard times right now with everything economy related, and we have to make better decisions. If that better decision is to go boutique, hand-wired, fairy dust, great. I'm not here to judge you. I do that myself. But if our point is to say we have to support our family, we have to be responsible, do I really need a $200 pedal when a $40 pedal will get me in that territory and no one will make the difference? That might be where we need to really evaluate where to put our priorities. So for me, wanting to sell my stuff, these are the struggles I'm going to. They're not big struggles. I mean, shit, I got every fucking pedal I could ever want. But if I'm to be honest, if I want to, put some money back in my bank account, I need to think, where am I losing money, or even bleeding money at this point, and where am I making a profit? So right now it's one of the two extremes, the Cinders or the Blues Driver. I'm going to be making that decision. So if you want to see which one I chose and the reason why I chose it, just look on my community tab in the following days. I'm going to be making a decision, and it's going to have to be a permanent one because I need to make some money. So yeah, I hope that I did not confuse you with this process. I hope that it shows you that other musicians have to go through this shit, and we have to, think about what is precious. Is less more, or is more more? That is the other question. Where do you put your money? Hopefully you enjoyed this. I'm going to be doing the same thing with other pedals as I'm trying to liquidate this stuff. And perhaps there's something to learn, or maybe I'm just going to make a fool out of myself. I don't know. But hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, click over here. I have some more videos just like this one appearing on screen right now, and I'm going to see you in the next one. Cheers.